Hi, my name is Rob Scott from UC Today News, and in this session, I'm joined by Erin Romeo and Jay Wyatt from AudioCodes, and they're going to be sharing some top tips on how to manage Microsoft Teams in multi-vendor environments. So welcome, Erin and Jay. How's it going?
Good.
Hi, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Good. Thank you.
Great to see you both. Really excited about today's session. So why don't we dive in? So, first of all, we named this session "How to Manage Teams in the Multiverse." I mean, we were trying to think of a better way of saying multi-vendor environment, were we, or a cooler way? But I suppose, in fact, when you actually look up the definition of a multiverse, it says it's a realm consisting of a number of universes, a place lacking order or single ruling, which is exactly what many Microsoft Teams admins are challenged with right now. So to kick today's session off, let's firstly discuss the reality of maintaining seamless voice connectivity in these multi-vendor environments. So, Jay, how real is this issue right now?
Well, I think it's a very real issue. For a lot of organisations, especially large enterprises, they can't just implement a new system and turn the old one off. There's got to be an element of sort of coexistence. There's got to be a transition from the old to the new. So for them to be able to do that, they obviously want that seamless voice connectivity. And to make that successful, and I've banged this drum for quite some time, Rob. That they need to really understand what it is they've got, and that's where I see the biggest failings. There's not enough time in effort that's spent into kind of really understanding what an organisation has. I mean, telephony, like IT, it's grown organically over the years, and you might not know, how many lines you've got, or what analog adapters you have on analog systems. So it's always important to really kind of run through every system and actually carry out a number of different what I used to term discovery workshops. And that wouldn't just be with your IT team, but you need to get the security team on board. You need to look at the networking team, because remember, we're transitioning to an IP network, so you need to make sure that's fit for purpose. Wi-Fi network is another prime example. All of these kind of environments need to be looked at. Legacy infrastructure, that's a big hang up for a lot of organizations. And it kind of encompasses like door entry systems, lift barrier systems, tannoy systems. There's a whole raft of different things that you need to consider when actually transitioning to Microsoft Teams, and then to enable that kind of seamless point.
Yeah, good point. There are essentially, Rob, two questions here. Number one, how do we deal in a multi-vendor universe where we have different bits of plasticware all over the place, or different call flow functionalities? But there's also this question of multi-cloud. Like, now more than ever, we're able to assume and get delivered through a number of cloud services. You've got your big hyperscalers, and instead of a world where we're a walled garden and everything must be in in this jar, how can we blend the best of breed functionality, conversational AI, speech to text, from different cloud vendors? A lot of the cloud offerings come with some connective tissue or fabric that are beneficial. You've got machine learning in Azure, you've got contact center functionality in others like AWS. But our point is, when we come to the table with the consumer, we really want to help them understand it's multi-vendor. How do I hang phones off of Teams? It's multi-delivery or compute, multi-layers of compute, and multi-cloud as well. So I would say that we need to be cognizant to those things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's throw another dimension into this: hybrid work. I mean, that's another complexity, isn't it? That certainly IT leaders, IT managers, admins are challenged with. So, what kinds of strategies are being employed to kind of help effectively transition to these multi-vendor environments in hybrid workplaces?
Sure. So let me just sharpen the idea of hybrid work. What does hybrid work mean by definition? Is it different from the digital workplace? Hybrid just means, am I able to interact in a co-creative way, inclusively, whether I'm in the office or not in the office? And there are some barriers to that. Jay, do you want to talk through your opinion of hybrid?
Well, I mean, I was going to lead on from what you all said, actually, Erin. That hybrid work, Microsoft Teams has been always defined, or it's always been developed with hybrid working in mind. Okay, it's not a new technology. We've been doing it for quite some time. It's just that the world went through a situation where there was a lot of people that were forced to work from home, and everybody still needs to communicate. So all that essentially means is that when you're hybrid working, yes, things have to change. The office place, the workplace needs to change. People need to change more when they're working at home, because some people, like me, I'm a prime example. I like to have kind of a work environment at home. I don't want to work just from a laptop. I want a complete environment where I feel like I'm in the office. So really what you end up doing is, and this kind of feeds back to the whole kind of user persona discussion that we have with organizations when they're first kind of starting out and deciding, and I want to use the term that Erin used, plasticware, that people have, when they're defining what solution, whether they're going to have a headset, a desk phone, or whatever it might be. When they're at home, that's just another user persona. And what we need to do is actually make sure we equip users for when they are hybrid working, when they are working from home, that they have the right equipment. Equally, when they're in the office, are they going to hot desk? In which case, have they got the right equipment then? Or are they still going to need to collaborate and communicate with their colleagues? They're still perhaps working from home or in different locations. So, do we need to look at the huddle room solution or the small meeting rooms and to define actually user personas or room personas for those environments? And I think once you've kind of bring these two things together, you've got a tick box going against the kind of hybrid work, and you really understand what it is you're doing and delivering.
Yeah, and just to pile on that, there's really three goals that we have with any persona, and that is, can I hear you? Can I see you? Is the device working? Is that super, in the way, right? Or is it out of the way so that we can just be human? So can I see you? Can I hear you? Am I able to monitor the performance of those environments? And then the last and probably the most important is, what can we do to empower context, pretext, post-text, follow-through, actuation? What can a company like AudioCodes do to empower contextual actualization? Are we actually getting stuff done from these meetings? And let us be more human, because as we have more workloads that can be assumed by AI, our real value is our creative ability, our ability to make cognitive connection. And that's really the point, is to try to drive that effort to be more human. And that's the point of hybrid.
Yeah, I really like that. And, we talk about, always improving customer experience and employee experiences. So, we've got the internal comms and we've got the external customer communication as well to consider. So how, Erin, how do we kind of, improve these experiences in these kinds of environments? What monitoring kind of tools and techniques are available?
Yeah, gotcha. So there are some quality of experience tools that are built into Teams Admin Center, and those vary both in the actual admin portal and the Teams login. When you're managing that, you can see CDR and quality of experience connectivity, as well as exporting data or pulling data out of Teams Admin Center and pushing that into a Power BI or Power Automate reality. Of course, the analytics and telemetry, Rob, is only as good as the data feeds going in. And so what I'd love Jay to talk about here in just a minute is how we at AudioCodes are extending the data feeds to requests for comment SIP from carrier solutions in a direct routing capacity. Can we tell if the carrier handoff caused the problem of jitter or latency? And then that's the beginning of the story. Then it hits Teams, which is in a jar, right? Which is normally what Teams, admin console can help you to QoE manage. But then after the call goes to the last 3 feet to a headset, what can AudioCodes do by way of SDK and API integration into the last 3 feet? Is it the headset that's causing the problem? So Jay, I'm going to flip this over to you to talk more about One Voice.
Thank you. And build on what Erin's just said. Look, the Teams Admin Center, I think the tools that you get straight out of the box, they're great for a lot of organizations, a lot of perhaps smaller organizations. But I think they have their limitations. I think when you start to look at it from a large organization, you suddenly realize day two, crikey, we bought this, we're managing this. How do we go forward? Because it can be a huge burden if you don't have the manpower to manage that environment. So, we have a tool, we call it the One Voice Operations Center, or OVOC, okay, and this is our primary tool for managing your environment. It gives you the environmental monitoring reporting that you need, and it gives you that true end-to-end reporting solution. Not only that now, but we've also got devices and user management built into the One Voice Operations Center, which builds upon what you get within the Teams Admin Center, but it makes it a lot more I want to say a lot more simplistic. Okay, for a lot of the things that you need to do within Teams, you need a bit of a script wizard. With PowerShell. What we enable you to do through the One Voice Operations Center is we get all those scripts, we customize them, and we allow that to be done by typically kind of almost like a first line support engineer that can actually run a lot of these day-to-day husbandry tasks. So it removes that burden of managing the new Teams environment and just makes it an almost an automated process.
Yeah, there's a lot of kit, hardware in the mix here, isn't there, in these multi environments with Teams? I mean, as well as software. But let's just focus on the hardware for a moment. And in terms of procuring equipment for these environments, has that got any easier, Jay? I mean, are there new buying models available? What's the state of play there?
Well, there absolutely is, Rob. I mean, historically within the comms world, it was very much a kind of a capex. You bought a piece of tin, you put it on a PBX, you put it on premise, and you plugged a load of phones into it. Times have moved on with UCC, and the requirements have moved on. So we as an organisation now are very much focused on providing OPEX solutions with monthly costs, so monthly billing, which absolutely follows Microsoft's methodology, if you like, with their Office 365 programs. Everybody's used to this, and it kind of it makes complete sense to have that per user per month billing or per device per month billing, and we're pushing that across all of our devices, meeting room solutions, and obviously all of our user plans. So it's actually we're seeing as being the preferred model going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, great points. I think the subscriber access license migration from, a client access license, we used to have Exchange servers, now we have O365. I think that the marketplace has, accepted that as the delivery. But from a consumer perspective, if I'm buying, oranges out of a basket from the side of the road, that's a one-time purchase, and I'm on my own to kind of take care of whatever problems occur. Whereas if I have a relationship with an organization and I have a monthly recurring cost, or I have a service level agreement, from the consumer perspective, it's much smarter to be engaged in a long-term loving relationship with a company, so that we can make sure that we're getting the performance that we desire. And that, coupled with the reality that's what's right for the customer, is also now very much right for this, what we'll call a company's look and feel on the street. It makes a lot of sense for AudioCodes, and perhaps we shouldn't be talking about this, but I'm pretty transparent in my life. It makes a lot more sense for AudioCodes to get into a monthly recurring revenue model with customers to serve them, because it shows our ability. Hey, turnkey, every day we turn the key and we enter into our office, we have this amount of revenue. It's also a bit more about investment protection, though, because AudioCodes has been through the years where, okay, something changed in Microsoft, Lync, Skype for Business, Teams. Now all of these units, all of this plasticware are basically bookends. They are, or doorstops. They're just ruled obsolete through end of life, of a platform. There's larger chipset needed because we have more to do. And so device as a service is really about investment protection for the consumer. It's, hey, you bought this from us, you signed a contract. At any point in that reality, if you want to upgrade or downgrade to the better or the worse or the none, right? As long as you're within the confines of an agreement with us, there's no problem. In fact, you can just exchange phones, so that, hey, you don't really own this, you're just flipping it over to us so that we can get you the right device necessary for the persona use. So that's what really device as a service means to us. And it's, by the way, everything across the board with AudioCodes can be sold as a managed service. Just because we have analog or copper needs in a building doesn't mean you have to own that device. We can park it there in your closet, we can manage it ourselves, and you can just consume it as a kind of per user per month, or a device confluency rate. So that's a lot of words, but the idea is really, we want to make it as easy as possible for consumers to have that investment protection.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's keep the lights on. Some really good advice here so far, chaps. In terms of measuring performance, monitoring outcomes, a return on investment with all this kind of stuff. Jay, what's the best way to kind of measure success? What would you say?
I think this sort of question can be answered in many different ways. My measure of success would be the amount of users that have embraced and are using the new platform, okay, without kind of issues, okay. It's all about the amount of people that are actually using the platform. There's no point in buying something, subscribing to it, deploying it, and then people are refusing to use it because you haven't gone through a lot of the hoops that you need to enable users to be able to embrace it, okay. So that's going to be the measure of success. It's going to be how many people are actually using the new solution and embracing it. I'm sure Erin can put it far more elegantly than I can.
Well, I'll just add to adoption and consumption is super important. I 100% agree. But for the business leaders, there's a human cost associated, a human time metric associated to all the meetings that we're having. A lot of what COVID-19 did is, okay, everybody go home, work from home, but because you're working from home and because I have this productivity paranoia, I need you to be on meetings all day long, right? And some of these meetings are really kind of pointless and we just don't understand what the outcomes are. And that can really lead to digital exhaustion. And so when you ask about metrics, Rob, and you're saying, okay, well, what are you trying to measure? Well, there's the classic jitter and latency, et cetera. But we also have to understand the human capital here, the human cost of meetings. We had a meeting, there were 3 people in the room. That's a lot of salary. What did we get done? What are the action items and summary points? What are the takeaways? And can we plot those in business intelligence? And that's the critical motion here with Copilot and with ChatGPT and these things is how are we able to take those meetings and make some sense out of what we're getting done and moving it to the next stage, the next set of downs, et cetera. So I think those are metrics that really should be paid attention to. Adoption, consumption, obviously you got to use the tools, but when you are using the tools, what are we actually getting out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really do agree with you on that point. It's not just about greasing the wheels of Microsoft Teams. It is about moving the business forward on the platform, isn't it? It can do so much. And as you say, with new technologies coming through like Copilot and ChatGPT, there's lots more to consider going forward if you're a Teams admin. So great stuff. Right. Well, in terms of takeaways from today's session, Erin, what would you say, to our audience? What do you want to remember about today's video?
Sure. Yeah. I appreciate the time. As clean as I can say it, I spend a lot of time with organizations that are telling me they have a functional need. We need, when the phone rings, a chicken to lay an egg and a gun to fire, and they have all these needs, call parking and 4-digit dial, but no real think through about why the function exists. What is the point of this function, right? And on your inbound calls, what is the point of making your customers sit through an auto attendant? Press 1 for, listen to the entire menu. I mean, by the time you're to the end of those nested menus, you're ready to pull your hair out. So what we're saying is if you're going to take something away, have a firm understanding of the functional requirement. Don't just say, I need this. Say, I need this because it brings us this amount of dollars or this amount of result. Or let us walk you through that. One of the beautiful parts about Microsoft Catalyst, which is basically the go-to-market motion, is Microsoft will actually pay us to sit with you and do professional service engagements and consulting and do modernized communication workshops, hybrid meeting workshops where we're saying, what's the art of the possible? Why do you need a break room phone if you can use Teams Mobile? Why do you need a warehouse phone if you can just, blast to a Teams group or chirp or do that one button broadcast to a Teams group? And so let's really think through the art of the possible. What is your infrastructure? What's its current state? What could it be? You want to get out of the business of managing servers and into the business of just managing expectations? Great, let's talk about it. So I would say the major call to action is as clear as I can make it, Rob, is no obligation. Let us just engage. Microsoft will pay us for our time with you, and we will walk you through what is the immersion experience, the art of the possible, so that you can kind of make your own plan by way of phases.
That sounds like great advice. Adding that sparkle to Teams is exactly what I'm sure that there's a lot of organizations out there looking for right now. So I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Erin, Jay, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
Thanks, Rob.
thank you.
And thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you've got some good takeaways from today's session, do give us a quick mention on social and subscribe to our channel for more industry news and insights. I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.